So good morning. Thank you. So, are you guys having a great time learning? And up for another round of dose of technical stack that I want to talk about, right? Okay. So, in today's presentation, I'm gonna talk about the Polymer framework, and how we are gonna automate the Polymer framework-based applications. So before we start, let me take a feel from everyone. How many of you are dev and QA or it's the QA community around? Okay. So this will help me to moderate the talk in terms of QA. The takeaway for all of you would be from this session to understand what the Polymer is and how do you develop web components using Polymer framework. In case you want to unit test those components, if Polymer provides a framework or not, and we talk about how do you do functional testing using Selenium. Okay. So before I start with the slides and the agenda, okay, I actually wanted to show you the application which is developed using Polymer framework, how it looks like. So this will give you an idea that any application which is developed using Polymer is very UI intensive applications. So you may want to use Polymer framework for developing such applications. So I'll just do some quick navigation to show you the effects. Right? So you see all of these JavaScript manipulations and the style sheets that have been used, because a lot of effort in maintaining and creating those, right? So in a conventional framework, if you look at, you have to write and manage a lot of style sheets and JavaScripts to do that. So don't you always feel that there should be a framework to ease this effort of maintaining all of this, all of the resources that are being used? So we already have a lot of frameworks available, like the AngularJS, the Dojo Toolkit, JavaScript frameworks. Then 2011, Facebook came up with React framework, which is again on web components. In spite of having all of these frameworks, and they were typically addressing some needs, Google in 2014 started Polymer framework, which was very relevant and gaining momentum because of two major things. One was the data binding, the other one was your reusability. So I'm just moving back to the slides. So that's where we are going to talk about we're not going to look at the comparison of the previous framework and what Google framework provides, but then we'll limit the talk only to Polymer framework. So the agenda for the entire session would be, we'll talk about the Polymer framework and how do we create web components, and then we'll jump over to unit testing web components, and then we'll look at how do we write the functional test, the entire the user flow from the UI perspective, and then we'll open the forum for questions and answers. So as I said, Polymer web development framework is mainly for UI intensive web apps. So you may want to use this for creating a lot of UI. If your application requires a lot of UI components, then you probably going to use this framework. The next is, it actually provides, this framework provides polyfills, which is actually very specific to a DOM. So if you ask me what is polyfills, polyfills are nothing but a plugin, you can say, or a hack which provides a DOM manipulations and JavaScript manipulations for your DOM for a specific browser. Suppose if your browser doesn't support a specific event, right, or it doesn't provide a specific API, then this polyfills fits in, goes in there, and then provides you that, so that you can render these new components that you going to create. So it's like providing the ability for the older browsers to work as the new browsers. So any new version will definitely have that ability, but then you actually want to go back and then provide it flexibility using polyfills. Again, as I said, so it's actually simplifies the way you create and manage your web components. The other benefit that you get with Polymer framework is you actually get a package of core elements that you can directly reuse in an application. So you don't have to develop them. You simply import them and start using those in your applications. Apart from just using the pre-built package of core elements, you can even customize those components and then accordingly use in your applications. So in case you have to do some customization in the existing core elements, you can go back and do the customization and use them. Okay, I'm going to show you how. What are these core elements? Just to give you an idea how this looks like. So these are some components which comes with Polymer library when you download from the repo, right? So checkboxes, you see the effects and all of that. All of these comes for free with the package. So you have to import them and use it. So all of these effects that you see, right? This is already defined and developed. So you can use these, and probably for in cases where you have to define probably a new event or something you want to add upon to your existing core elements, you can do that by modifying the style sheet, and you can modify the component. So that's more of a customization that you want to do on the core elements. Falling back to this. Yeah, so these were the core elements, right? Let me show you another application which is paper calculator, right? So this application we'll use throughout our unit tests and the Selenium tests. We have taken as a sample Polymer application that we'll be using it. So you see all of these effects which comes up when you click on this. So if you look at this is the mix of only two components. One is your Polymer calculator and the other one is Polymer calculator key. Moving back to these slides. So now we'll talk about web components. So web components are nothing but a specification in Polymer framework. How do you write your components? And that specification tells you kind of a semantic that you have to follow while creating those components. Helps you define custom tags. So get away with the existing boring HTML tags. You can provide your own custom tag, which is good. I would say a good feature, in terms of managing your components. Provides better management through better management of components through data binding and reusability. As I said, these two are the main features which differentiates this specific framework from the existing framework. So, what is data binding and the reusability? Look into it. So, as the name suggests, right? So it actually binds the data within that component level. So, how it does is it actually combines the styling of it, the JavaScript part, and any logic that we develop is within the component scope. It doesn't let the style sheet effect leaking out of the context of a component. So you have a page, right? So you will have multiple web components created, but there is something which is not falling in the web components scope. So you won't allow that leakage to happen from the web component to the main source page, right? So it actually binds that entire stuff into web component scope. As I said, so it actually doesn't allow you to the effect to leak out another. So it actually eliminates the rest of the HTML source. Moving on to the reusability. So data binding we talk about. Reusability in sense, as I said, so in spite of just using the existing core elements from the repo, right? You can even customize your elements and then host them over the web. And any other person around the corner, they can download those components and use them. So in that way, it's very reusable. So what are these specifications? Let's have a look one by one. As I said, custom tag, it provides the ability for the user to add a user-defined tags for your components. Another one is HTML templates. HTML templates are nothing but a markup that you want to put in your source. So suppose there's a counter that you pass it as a parameter, and you want some divs and spans. There's a block of div and span you want to repeat in your HTML source. So which is again based on logic. So you want 3, then the 3 list will be included in the HTML source, right? So you want to keep a block of template and you want to repeat that template multiple times. So that way you can actually reduce the markup in your HTML. Then comes your HTML import. So as I said, you create them and then you can import those components and use them in your applications. Shared DOM is another feature which Polyfabric provides. So as I said, data binding. It's an underlying feature of your shared DOM. So what it does is, shared DOM is nothing but another chunk of DOM structure, which is not following the existing DOM structure from the page level. So if you try to get a hook of the element from page level, right? So you won't be able to get the element properly. So those are standalone DOM structures which are not bound to the page level HTML source. Yeah, let me show you how it looks like as I talked about HTML import, template, and shared DOM. Actually, yeah, save this thing for you. So, site can reduce. Okay, so as I said, the custom tag, using Polymer element, the name becomes a custom tag and you provide the attributes there. I'm talking in the same context of as I said, so you provide an attribute which is like a counter over here. So you provide the value of a counter that goes into the template part of it. So here's a template. And this is whatever, and this is the script that you write. And this is a template and the style inside the template. So everything that is bound inside this Polymer definition, this is like a class definition. So anything defined inside the web component will not leak outside. And it doesn't allow you allow any other component to interact with it. So custom tag, shadow DOM, HTML template, which is this, as I said. So it takes the counter value and then provides. So this is the markup, right? Div ID and button on top of that. Yeah. So the other one is how do we use it? This is only the class definition that I showed you guys, right? So if you're working on the same HTML file, right? So you can simply write this statement, component name and the value of the attribute, and then start using this component. But in case you have defined a component in a separate HTML file, you want to import that component first and then want to use in the HTML file, right? So this is how you do it. So you have to use this statement to import that specific component in your HTML file, and then you can use it. I hope everyone is with me as far as the slides and the context that I was covering. Okay, so we have seen how a component is developed using Polymer framework. Now we'll get into the unit testing part. How do we test those components? So, and Polymer itself provides a way to unit test those components. That is WCT, Web Component Tester. So we'll see how do we do it. So my friend Shilpa will take you through for the unit testing part.
Thanks, Darpinder. You have seen how web components are developed. So, when coming up with Polymer, Google was evaluating several options to unit test a particular component. Say you have developed a new web component, or say you're using an existing web component, or you're using your elements. You definitely have to test them, test a web component thoroughly. So after evaluating several options, Google has come up with its own test framework, that is Web Component Tester, a testing tool to test the web components. So Web Component Tester is basically a unit testing tool for Polymer, again by Google. So it is configured out of the box with Mocha as a test framework and Chai as an assertion library. Mocha gives you flexibility to do a lot of things. So WCT package in itself comes with Mocha as a test framework. And since Mocha doesn't have an assertion library, they have included Chai as an assertion library so that you can write your assert with, with the Chai assertion library. Since WCT is integrated with WebDriver, you can run your unit tests on multiple browsers at a time. And WCT helps you test a web component thoroughly, exhaustively. So what I'll do is I'll take you through a sample and show how it is done. Okay. Now, as Dharmendra was explaining, you say you have a particular web component. Okay. You saw the sample paper calculator application. That is, yeah. This is the sample paper calculator application. You might have several web components here in this web page, right? Say you have this entire paper calculator, then you have individual keys, which is a web component, and these individual keys are giving you a ripple kind of effect when you are pressing on them. There are grids, say in one grid you have the numbers, in one grid you have the symbols, in one grid you have other functionalities. So you might want to test one particular component. In my example, what I have done is I have taken this individual keys and how do I assert, how do I write tests and assert for individual keys. So here is my test. Say there is paper calculator key. This is the web component, a new paper calculator key. It has its own styling, and you have your div inside the template, and you have this script here.
Excuse me, Shilpa. Can you please increase the font if possible?
Okay. So, it's not visible.
Yeah, this is fine.
This is better? Okay. First thing, what we can do is, we can import that particular element into your test. So I have imported the paper calculator element into my test. I then have to instantiate it. So I am instantiating it here. And I can use it like any other element. I can do a query selector, select that, and write any test on it. Here I have taken a very simple test to test the ripple effect, that is to check if it's the ripple effect is a circle and I'm doing a recentering touch. So, and if I have to run my test, what I directly do is I'm running it on Firefox. If I don't mention any browser, I can run it on all the browsers at once, whatever the browsers are installed. So, one thing, this is the paper calculator test. Say this is for one component, and if I am writing multiple files, multiple HTML files or multiple .js files, then what I can do is I can call it all at once in this particular suite, and I can run this suite.
So basically, you're writing your unit test in HTML files. So that flexibility as well.
Yes, WCT gives you a flexibility to write your tests as both HTML suites as well as JS suites. In fact, in our project, we even we write our tests in .coffee files, which at compile time converts into JavaScript. We basically use CoffeeScript because less noise. I mean, we can write it as we tell. Say like, I mean, it's as if we are saying something.
It's less verbose like a JavaScript, right? So You don't have to write so much code in JavaScript. So it actually eliminates that, and you compile that in again with JavaScript. But then the basic is it still requires JavaScript files. So when you write in Coffee, there's a compiler which converts into JavaScript files, and we refer those JavaScript files. So it's really a kind of an intermediate language that they're using.
Right. So, if you look at your terminal, you will be able to see the output here. Say, by the way, Mocha gives you a flexibility to run both on Node.js as well as browser. So, if I want to see my tests on the browser, it even gives you that the test has passed, or if the test has, say, if I try to fail a particular test, it can even tell you where exactly it has failed. Say instead of circle, if it was square or something, and if I am running the test, it will even tell me where exactly it has failed. Yeah, here we are actually asserting that the ripple effect is equal to a circle in this case, and what the ripple type is. So it's pretty easy to write a unit test. Say if you have a new web component, and if you want to test that web component, functional testing is a lot, it's time consuming, it takes a lot of effort to write, and you cannot test everything when you're doing functional testing. So if you write thorough unit testing for it, then functional testing will become easier. You can only write the integration points, etc. So this is how you test functional, do a unit test with web component tester. Want to move on with the functional testing?
Thanks, Jennifer. That was a nice explanation. Thanks. Moving on to the functional testing part. So we have seen how the unit tests are written and how do we write unit tests, right? So we have seen that it's only a component-based test that we write. So you can check for the classes, the events that you have included in your test, in your component are working fine or not. So, but in case from the UI perspective on the application, how each of these components are interacting with each other and how you create a user flow around that, right? So let's get into the function testing, because that talks about creating those user flows and not just the component level testing, right? So there's a catch, there's a challenge that you see with the Shadow DOM. So Shadow DOM is a culprit over here. So as I said, Shadow DOM is a separate DOM structure which is not dependent on the parent DOM structure. So you cannot directly use your query selector all to access the element which are residing under the Shadow DOM. So the first thing, very important, not all browsers support Shadow DOM right now. So this is the reason why the Polymer is not announced, formally by Google with like it's available throughout and it's in production. So this is again in a beta version which is going on. So they have provided full support for Chrome Canary version, but not for Firefox and Safari. So probably, but this is going to be the future because you have seen that how easier it makes to develop such applications. So I'll just show you how Shadow DOM looks like, and then we'll see how do we write tests around those. So as I said, those are exposed to outer DOM structure. And all your query selector all, these methods fails to identify the element. And how do you get a hook of the element and make it work the way you want, right? So let me show you in application how this Shadow DOM appears. So this is your calculator. To inspect. Visible to all, right? Everyone can have Oh, it's not working. I'm not able to zoom it. Yeah, so the one that I've highlighted over here, right? So this one is your shadow DOM thing, right? Shadow root. So this is a paper calculator key which is defined, which is web component, right? So as I said, whatever you enclose within a web component definition, right, that becomes a shadow DOM structure. So this is the class, the web component starting over here and it's ending over here, right? And there's a the shadow DOM. This is actually holding the entire logic of a component, right? Now there's nothing which is accessible. So when you actually try to do a query selector all, like you want to look for ink container, you provide the class name, and in other scenarios, right, where you're not dealing with shadow DOM, then actually it works, and then you can iterate through it and get to the right element that you want. But in this case, it doesn't work. So I'll show you both the cases when it is working and why it is not working. So let me run through the same example where I'll add two numbers and then I'll walk through for why it doesn't work in other browser, right? So I've used Eclipse for this test. I'll simply go ahead and run this test and then I'll explain about it. So I actually used two tests, one for addition and the other one is subtraction. So yeah, this is the other one. So this is the Chrome, and I'm not running this on Firefox. I'll show the difference why it doesn't work with Firefox. As I said, polyfills are not available entirely for all the other browsers. So the effect will not be same. If you run the same script on a different browser, it won't work. So if I just change this to in the interest of time, I'm just running one test. So same script, no change, but the shadow DOM doesn't work in the concept doesn't work in Firefox. Yeah, so script won't run. The reason being, if you do inspect over here, so you won't see that shadow DOM coming up over here. So it's right now available only in Chrome Canary and not in any other browser. So in near future we can expect this, like all of the latest browsers are supporting the Polymer components and then Polymer web framework. So you don't see the shadow over here, right? So that's the reason it's not supported right now, because every browser has its own way to render these components. So you still see that it's working, right? But the testability goes for a toss, right? I'll go back to the script that what I've done. So what I'm doing is I'm providing this colon shadow. This is more like a trick, you can say, or it's more like a hack, you would say. So going forward, dealing with shadow DOM, you'll have to use this. So if you replace this, it doesn't identify the element in your DOM structure. So it actually bypasses all the other DOM structure, it only looks for shadow DOM. And anything which is inside the shadow, suppose there's a component and there's a child component attached to it, right? So how do we handle that? So in this case, I'm using, okay, this is just, I'm actually using click keys, another function, to click on the elements. So what I'm doing is I'm finding keys first through the shadow DOM, and then inside the key I'm looking for paper calculator. So there's a catch over there. Why I haven't used the shadow, colon shadow over there? The reason being, if you're already inside the DOM, shadow DOM, you don't have to provide the shadow DOM again, a parent-child structure, right? So if your child again resides into a shadow DOM, you probably want to put over there as a shadow, and it will work. Otherwise, it will give you an error. That's all pretty much from the functional testing and how do we write test cases from the UI perspective. That's all. That's all from our side. Thank you, everyone. We open for questions and answers now. Any questions?
One question.
Yeah.
Assertions, which is testing actually the effect, ripple effect and all. Is that already provided in Chai, or is that the WCT framework has the addition?
Ripple effect is defined in the styles. So you get that yellow lightning, right? The ripple effect is defined in the style sheets. So that's the style that we've created. So through unit test, what we did is we tried to read that class and asserted that it is that yellow only, nothing else in that sense. So if you develop your component in more complex way, right, you define some events to it, then you actually check for the focus out, focus in events. So it was a basic test to tell you how do you actually get through the component inside and then to take the events and the classes that you define inside it. Am I clear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you test the routing of the pages? Like if the page moves from this page to another page, how do you actually test whether it's going to that page or not?
You might have to mock, unit test. You're testing, you're talking about unit testing or functional
Something
testing?
at a higher level, integration or at a higher level test. Page navigation.
Page
Like
navigation?
click on this link.
So other page will have something to assert on, right? So you log in, right? And then you go to the next page where you can see your name coming up. So you can look for that name as an assertion, right? You get the hook of the element and then read the text of it and then you assert it. Here is the next page.
It's like writing any other Selenium test. Say if you're testing navigation from one page to another page, you might have to wait for page load or check that page is loaded. So you can assert that way. But if you're talking about unit tests, you'll have to mock the rest of it. And again, WCT provides Sinan JS for mocking and stuffing. So Sinan again comes with the WCT package.
So if you look at the test, the function that we written, we're not using any framework. We're just telling you how you actually get the hook of the element in case of shadow. And it's up to you how do you create a framework around it for your application.
Any further questions? Thank you, Dharmendra and Shilpa. As a token of appreciation and gratitude, we would like to gift you a small goodie. Again,